Welcome to the Compass PTN Introduction to the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. This will be a short 15-minute video presented today to be able to help you know and understand the overview of the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. If you're interested and need more resources, there is a longer video that will be able to be presented covering both this information and more in-depth material on the PDSA, or Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. My name is Sarah Pavelka, and I'm one of the improvement advisors at the Iowa Healthcare Collaborative and Compass PTN to be able to help you work through your cycles of change within your organization. So let's go ahead and get started. What is the Plan, Do, Study, Act process? Seems pretty simple and pretty straightforward. And actually, many of us do the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle every single day. So a very simple model. Think about, you're starting your journey home for the day. What am I going to make for dinner? Think about, what do you have in the fridge? What may you need to stop and buy at the grocery store on your way home? Ultimately, when you're doing this, you're creating a plan. So what am I doing? How much do I have? Where am I going to go? And you start to create a mental checklist of what's actually happening today and what are the problem areas, or in the case of making a dinner meal, what might I need to get? What are things I'm going to run out of? Then you get home and you actually implement that plan. You actually do it. You actually go ahead and make dinner and try, see how it tastes, and you have an opportunity to study it. Did it work? Did my meal planning work, or did I fall short? And last but not least, you act on it. Maybe it's a recipe or a meal that you want to be able to integrate into your weekly routine or your opportunity to make again for your family. So the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. Something we do almost so naturally, some of us don't even think about doing it. But when it comes to work, many of us don't think about using this simple four-step process to be able to help your organization or your work unit or even your team become more efficient and more effective. So let's move further into the PDSA cycle. Why would you want to start to implement the Plan, Do, Study, Act? What are the benefits for your organization? Well, first and foremost, again, it's almost so easy to use that we forget or we don't even realize that we're using it. It's something almost, as people would call, common sense. Being able to create a plan, implement it, study to see if it worked, and act on it if it did or didn't. It is a cycle of improvement. It's continuous. We do it every single day. We have every opportunity within our organization to start to implement this. And so it's not something that we can do once and stop. It's a growth, it's a learning opportunity with many cycles built upon each other. It is part of our everyday problem solving. So if you're sitting there from a clinical standpoint and you may be saying, how do I do this? The answer is you do it already. You do it when you have an individual that walks into your office or your treatment room and you ask them, okay, so what's going on today? How can I help you? That's creating a plan. You work with them to implement either a diagnostic or a treatment plan of some sort. You have them come back to you to see if it's working, and you modify that action or those plans if it's not. So it is part of our everyday problem solving. Again, so simple or so much common sense or so much part of our training that we don't even think about using it. The Plan, Do, Study, Act, however, does provide a framework for improvement. It keeps us in order and online. Instead of trying the, what I call, trial and error methodology, it continues to provide a framework or a step-by-step set of directions that we can follow to continue to improve our organization. The benefits of the PDSA cycle are there are many, many tools, or if you will, pieces or parts that come together to be able to create this cycle that we can use and interchange them as our situation calls for. So those tools, as we go through the presentation, and again, we will touch on them, but if you're interested in more of those tools, they're they are listed and are provided in that longer PDSA video presentation. Search that video out if you're interested in more of those tools. And last but not least, the benefit of the PDSA cycle is to reduce the ready, fire, aim, or trial and error. If we think about doing things and just hoping or praying that they actually work, we're in that trial and error piece. We don't really have sound methods or a sound indication that it may or may not work. The PDSA cycle is going to be able to give us some indication of what's really going to work and what's really going to make an impact. So it reduces the back and forth nature of the trial and error method. Here's another way to look at the PDSA cycle in more of a 9-step process, a little bit more detail as you start to continue to move. The first few pieces, the first 4 bullets, are part of the plan: defining the system, describing the problem, studying the current state, and analyzing the root causes. Then we would move into the do, or implementing a theory of improvement and implementing that theory. The third stage is to study it. Study the results and standardize the improvements. And last but not least, continuous improvement, or the ACT. Thinking again about this breakdown, if you're interested in more of these details, seek out that hour-long video, and we're happy to help you implement the Plan, Do, Study, Act within your organization. As I mentioned earlier, the PDSA is often a cycle or cycles of improvement. And so this image or this diagram often shows on how we improve to sustainability. We first start off with a pretty good idea, then we test it, and then ultimately we make it part of our routine. So if you think about each of those pieces are a cycle of a Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle, they build on each other to ultimately have more and more value, more and more quality, or more and more goal achievement. This Plan, Do, Study, Act example is fairly detailed and it is clinical, but I want you to be able to see how we can use this model in things that we would do within our everyday routine within our organization. The nurse identifies an individual that is showing signs of some difficulty with their diabetic conditions. The first thing a nurse would think about is what's the current? What's the actual blood sugar for the patient today? That's the current state. Moving into, they need to know what the plan is. They know that they need to be able to get the blood sugar back to normal as quickly as possible. They actually go find the sugar and give it to the patient in one form or another. Have an opportunity to be able to find the goals and be able to say what's actually going to happen. Give the actual juice, in this case, to the patient. And then again, study it to be able to say, is it working? And then last but not least, act on it. And so what we have done here is actually moved through the model of improvement for the Plan, Do, Study, Act. So the first 3 pieces, what are we trying to accomplish? How are we going to know that change occurred? And what changes will we need to be able to make? And then ultimately the 4 steps of the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. So being able to look at these pieces and being able to break down our processes as something as simple and as critical as being able to move a blood sugar back into normal ranges. We do use the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. But again, it's so much part of our nature that we don't ever necessarily think about doing this as a PDSA. But yes, this simple act of being able to move individuals' blood sugar back into a normal range is part of the Plan, Do, Study, Act. I mentioned that there are lots of tools that we can use within the Plan, Do, Study, Act. Here's a list of them. The key with these is that you would need to know when and why to use each one. This video isn't intended to be a tool education, but we just wanted to be able to work and understand that there are different tools within the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle that you would use. Think of the Plan, Do, Study, Act as a building plan, and during the building of maybe it's a house, you use lots of different tools. Here are the list of tools that we would use, or some of the list of tools that we would use within building the PDSA cycle. If you're interested, we're more than happy to be able to help and define each of these tools for you through whether it's hands-on education or tools and resources. Also, if you have any other questions regarding the PDSA cycle or how you can use this methodology quick and easy within your organization, feel free to contact us at the information below. We're happy to help you, and we wish you the best of luck in your PDSA journey. Thank you.